Good morning and welcome. I've had quite a lot of comments come back on my YouTube channel after Mr. Chris Sale launched his video showing how I was taught how to make videos. A lot of those comments have been very, very positive, and I'm very pleased about it. It's taken a great weight off my mind. One of the salient points in a lot of the comments was that people felt they wanted to understand how the actual process of putting the videos together on the computer actually happens and what's involved in that. So today what I'm going to do is I'll make a very short YouTube video. I'll talk you through how I add the content, how I make the transitions, how I add the music, and basically the idea is by the end of it you should have a pretty fair understanding of what's involved in putting it all together, and also how long it takes to do it, because it doesn't take 5 minutes. Anyway, I'll switch to using screen capture and I'll show you and talk you through with voiceover from then. Here we are, I'm on the PC now. What I'm going to do is launch the program I use for editing and modifying videos and putting together these YouTube videos that I'm making. The program's called Camtasia. I think it's about a $99 package. It's by far one of the simpler video editing suites that I've actually tried to use. I've tried to use Adobe and a couple of others. I've actually opened it up here, and what I need to do is create a new project. And as part of creating a new project I need to import media for the project, but before I do that what I'll do is talk you through briefly the screen. On the left hand side here are a series of tabs which correspond to different aspects of items that can be added to the video or to the soundtrack: cursor effects, audio effects, visual effects, interaction, captions, library of media that's available, icons, all that sort of thing I can add and put into the video, behaviors that change the way the text behaves when I put text on the screen, and transitions that, for instance, fade in and fade outs, that sort of thing. These are all available here, and whenever I click on one the content of this area changes to reflect which one I've selected. On the main area of the screen here, this is the preview screen. This is where you can see what any piece of video that you're creating looks like. It's got a play and fast forward and backwards and such, as you'd expect for a media playing device. At the bottom here we have the timeline, which is actually time in seconds and minutes, and in some cases hours, depending on how large the video is. And it has a series of tracks. These are the places where we actually add the content. So before I can add any content I've got to have some media to work with, so let me import some media. What I'm going to do is bring a picture in. Added to that I'm going to bring in some video and some music. So let me pick a piece of video, doesn't matter which one. I've recently been trying to create some video content for a different video that I'm making, so let me just take this piece of video clip and add it. And as you see, they're appearing in this thing called a media bin, which is connected to the media tab. So I've now got a static image, I've now got a piece of video, and I want to add some more information, or at least some more content, so I'm going to put a bit of sound in here. So if I look for my backing music, wherever I put it, backing music, let me pick, doesn't matter, it's just a piece of sound. This is going to be an incomplete video because what I want to do is just show you the principle. I'm not trying to create a finished item here, I'm just showing you how it's done. So these items here can be added to the timeline like so. You just drag and drop it and put it wherever you want on the timeline. If I zoom out a bit further you can see I'm expanding or contracting the scale, so I can see that this particular video clip is about 4.25 minutes long, and I can now add sound onto it. I can either put it on the same track, but you can only have items on the same track can be separated from each other, but they can't overlap each other. If you need them to overlap you have to put them on different tracks. For instance, this music I want to start cutting in halfway or a third of the way into the actual video content. So you see it actually works on the principle that the thing highest up this series of tracks is the thing that is seen and obscures things lower down. So if I put another soundtrack on it, they would merge those together if they were overlapping each other. If I put another piece of video on, the video would be shown, the piece that's actually at the top of the track order here would actually show first. So I'm going to now add this picture onto the timeline, so we'll just drag that. You notice that the item I'm working with currently is lit up in yellow, and also when I move it, it snaps to the back of other items which are already on the actual track. So I'll just leave it floating around here for the moment. I could actually move that up to here, or I could have it up here. It doesn't really matter. So moving forward, this long piece of video actually is a piece of B-roll supporting me loading the car and going out to a site to actually take some photographs that I did a couple of days ago. And this item here is the Playhead, this blue bar with a sort of a funny cone shaped thing at the top, and it has a start and an end point which basically are the same when it's actually in this very thin mode. You can drag these around if you want to. I find I don't need to do that very often. I just tend to move the playhead around, and as I move it, you'll see it's showing me the part of the video and also the part of the sound that applies at the point in time that the playhead's actually at. So let's just move it back to the beginning and say play, and you'll see that this is B-roll. I've set the camera up behind the car and I'm walking back into the house so that I can be seen walking out of the house and loading the car up and driving off. But we don't want the part that's actually where I'm at, walking away from the camera back into the house. So I'll move the playhead to just as I'm coming out the house. I'm just appearing there. Now you'll notice that the yellow item is selected is the actual piece of video. And if I click on this cropping clipping tool, or splitting tool, it will actually break that into two pieces of video footage now. That would, if I don't do anything else, it will play perfectly normally. It's now two pieces rather than one. But I don't want the first bit, because the first bit is about me walking away from the camera to appear to come out of the house. I only want the part where I'm coming out of the house. So now I've deleted it, and if I now move the whole of the video clip up to the start point and move the playhead back to the beginning, now all we see is me coming out of the house and loading the car up, which is what I wanted. So that now is pretty much what I want to do with this part of the video. What you will also see is there's a histogram inside the video. That's the audio volume that goes with this video. Now, I know that this video is a bit loud because I've already played with it a few times, so what I'm going to do is, I can't modify the volume of the video in the video clip itself, but what I can do is separate the video and audio. Notice what it's done, it's actually made the video where it was before, and it's created the audio as a separate item on the second track, and it's moved everything up out of the way so that it's made space for it, and it's still synchronized with the video correctly. It's just now it's got a green line on it, and this green line allows me to alter the volume. You see how the histogram is stretching up and down, and I don't particularly want much of the sound of me slamming the car door and driving off to be in the finished product, so I'll set this really quite low. What I do want is the music to sound quite nice, so I'll leave the music, and I'll move the music in a minute to the right point when I've decided where the right point is. But if I now play this, there isn't any sound except when I close the car tailgate and when I close the car door, and it's a bit boring. So what I'll do is just pause that there, and I'll move the music clip up to the beginning of the whole process, so it's in line with time 0 at the beginning here. So if I move the playhead here and I add an audio effect, which is one of the useful effects you can do, I'm going to put a fade in onto that music, and notice it's put a green dot there. If I now move that green dot, the music will ramp up as that line is ramping up, and then it will be constant volume at this level until the end of the audio track. I can then put a fade out on the end of it if I want to, and it's much the same thing in reverse, and I can move how long that fade takes and what percentage volume is. So if we now play this, what we should have is music starting. You see it's ramping up, the music's getting louder. It's also an intro track, so it's getting louder anyway, but it's been ramped up by the green line, the profile on the soundtrack. So now you've got music, and you're also hearing the background noises picking up from the microphone on the camera, the car door, and you'll hear the engine start in a minute, and you'll see me reverse out of the frame, at which point this particular piece of video needs to be cut so that I can use the rest of it somewhere else, because the part after this is for a different purpose. So if I stop it there and then go and highlight the video and say cut it, I can now cut that and move it out of the way. And I could, for instance, this isn't typical of a real video, I'm just doing this for effect. I can cut that as well. That's the audio track that goes with that piece of video. They line up, they can go over there. But now what I'm going to do is make this picture appear. And as it's just been put straight at the end of me driving the car out of the frame in the previous video, it will just transition straight to a picture with no effects and transition effects, which isn't what we want, because that's just too, it doesn't say anything, it just says, oh, suddenly a picture's appeared. What I'm going to do is add a transition, a fade transition to the picture. And if I zoom up, you can see that tiny effect here, and move the cursor along here a little bit. So this series of greeny turquoisey blocks here, which when you select them turn yellow, is the fade effect, and it's actually affecting the video and also the piece of the picture here of the tree. And this time from here to here is how long that fade will happen. So let me just let the fade come along here, move the playhead into place and play it, and you see it's fading out the video and fading in the picture. Now the picture is completely the image, and it's just going to stay there until the playhead reaches the end here, which will be, if I can shrink it down, the playhead's got quite a long time to run because I've made the picture last for a long time. So in essence, this is pretty much all the process involves, is cutting up and slicing up pieces of information in the way of pictures, audio, video, soundtracks for music and so on, and putting them into the right place in time, and then repeatedly just going back, checking that it does what you expect it to do, and then working further to the right over here, adding more pictures, more audio, more video and so on, until you've got the overall video as you want it to be. So I'm not actually going to continue any further with this other than just pause that and show you that actually putting this onto social media is really quite easy. To do that, we need to go up to the top here where there's a share option, and we click on that and it says where do you want to share it, and typically YouTube. So I'll go through the process. I won't put it on YouTube, I'll just explain how it works. So if I just call this test vid 1, give it a title of test. Normally you'd put tags in here. I don't need to put any tags in here because it's just a private thing. I'm not going to make it public, I'm going to make it private so only I can see it. And then I just say finish, and it will slowly but surely go through the process of exporting that video straight into YouTube, and when it's completed it will then display it. It'll give me a link to it and I can see it on my site or on my channel. So that's the process. If you've got any questions, please write them in the comments below. I'll be only too happy to answer it. I know this has been relatively short because there's a lot more that you can do, but just as a vehicle to show you that it's not as daunting as it would otherwise seem. It's quite fun actually once you get into the habit of which bits do what where. So it doesn't take too long to learn it, and if you're moderately computer you'll be able to do it. Anyway, I hope you found that informative, and please leave any comments below. Thank you very much.